I want to talk a little bit about the omnibus bill that was pulled off 2 nights ago because there were not the votes from across the aisle to get the bill moving. In that omnibus bill, there was a number of very, very important projects. I think for every state in the union, there were a lot of very important projects for the state of Montana in that bill that I'm afraid now will be put on the back burner. Nonetheless, there was also some very important language in that bill, in the omnibus bill. There was, in my particular case, there was language in that bill that is going to help put people back to work, and that language was contained in a bill that we called the Forest Jobs and Recreation Act. What this bill did was create 660,000 acres of new wilderness. It created 370,000 permanent acres in new recreation areas, and it required forest restoration, logging of 100,000 acres over 15 years. Now, it's important in Montana for several reasons. First reason is we've been attacked by beetles, bark beetle, that have killed a large percentage of our forests, and we need to give the Forest Service the tools that they need to be able to treat that. The second thing is that in the western part of Montana, the economy has been hurt pretty bad. I mean, the unemployment rate there is the highest in our state, and this bill will create jobs. And let me give you an example. Over the last year in Montana, 1,700 jobs were lost in the wood products industry alone. This bill would help get those folks back to work. How? Well, the folks running chainsaws, cutting in the woods, the mills that create dimension lumber and plywood and those kind of things, back up running, employing people. The opportunity for biofuels with these trees to be able to get a dependable supply, to be able to put the investment in to create biofuels and move that industry along to make this country more energy independent. To help save our timber infrastructure, because quite frankly, if you look at some of the states in the West, that timber infrastructure is gone. And our ability to manage those forests leaves us when that timber infrastructure goes. That's not the case in Montana, but we're getting very close, and it's why this bill needs to be passed. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's going to happen at this point in time. The other part about this bill, as I said, where there were so many projects in the omnibus, the CBO says that this bill is deficit neutral, no cost to the taxpayers. It is a bipartisan bill. It's a bill that we have support from both sides of the aisle, with governors and senators, congressmen, local county commissioners from both parties. It's a bill that the Forest Service, through Secretary Vilsack, supports. It is popular with over 70% of Montanans. And as I said earlier, it's in dire need because our forest is dying with over 1 million acres of dead and dying trees. This bill has been a subject of intense public debate for the past year and a half since I dropped it in. We had a Senate hearing a year ago yesterday, I believe it was. We've had town hall meetings, 11 in total across Montana. We've had unprecedented transparency with this bill, with it being online, and explaining and taking input and changing the bill as it's moved forward, making it a better bill. We've taken suggestions from the public, and where we've been able to address those concerns, we've been able to address them straight up and move forward. It really is a new way of doing business for the Forest Service, for our forested lands, our government-owned forested lands in this country. It has not been an easy go. This bill would not have happened 10 years ago. It absolutely wouldn't have happened 20 years ago. Because for the last 30 years, we've had gridlock in our forest industry. We've had conservationists and environmentalists and loggers and mill owners, recreationists, all fighting with one another. And nothing's gotten done in the last 30 years. Well, about 5 years ago, these folks got together and they said, you know, we all been losing. Nobody's been winning in this. We need to set our differences aside, and this body should listen to this, set our differences aside, find the common ground, and move forward with solutions. And they did exactly that. It was not easy, but they did exactly that. Where everybody gives a little, but gets a lot. And they sat down at those tables and they met for years, and they came up with this proposal. And shortly after I was elected, they came and said, would you carry it? And I looked at it and I said, you know what? This bill makes sense. It makes sense for Montana. It makes sense for the West. And we were on track to get this bill passed until the omnibus was pulled the other night because of a lack of support. Mr. President, our number one responsibility right now is jobs. Jobs, jobs, jobs. This bill helped create jobs, help put people to work in an industry that needs help. Regardless what happens from here, it is going to be critically important that we stay focused on jobs in this body. I will tell you that I think that if we do that and we're successful in that, this country will be a better place. It'll be a better place for our kids and our grandkids. It'll be a better place for the people right now. But quite frankly, I haven't seen a lot of that working together in the last 4 years. And when we have a piece of legislation that really isn't a Democrat piece of legislation or a Republican piece of legislation, but rather a good piece of legislation, it gets caught up in the process. I will continue to fight for jobs for everybody in this country, particularly Montana. We will continue to work to get this bill passed and bills like this passed because it's good for the country. And it gives the agencies, in this case the Forest Service, the kind of tools they need to manage our forests. As I said before, I was going to ask for unanimous consent for the passage of this bill. I've been informed that that will be objected to, so there's no reason to go through that formality. But I will say that as we bring it up again, hopefully next time we will be successful because it's a good bill. With that.